I'd like to take you back more than 60 years. Then, American president at the time, John F. Kennedy, was touring Cape Canaveral Space Center in Florida for the very first time, having just declared that the United States would go to the moon before the end of the decade. While touring the facility, Kennedy and the entourage walked down a long, whitewashed corridor, and they passed a man who was brooming the hallway. Kennedy and his team walked many meters past, and then he paused and went back and approached the man and said, "What are you doing?" And the man said, "Well, I'm brooming the hallway, Mr. President." And Kennedy paused and he looked at him and said, "Yeah, but you're pressing in so hard. Why? It looks spotless." And the man, as he was brooming, looks up and he says, "Well, so that we can go to the moon." Of course. We'll come back to that story in a minute. Before we go any farther, my name is Rick Simmons. I'm co-founder and CEO of the Telos Institute, a leading global organization development firm that since 2006, and from our headquarters in North America, has supported the foremost leaders, leadership teams, and organizations around the world across a range of their most pressing challenges, ranging from business strategy to leadership development and change management. And what brings us back to this Kennedy story is that there was a time before we declared we would go to the moon. And then there was a time when we landed. And yet there was this period of time in between, this liminal space, this threshold period. And we'll talk about these today because these are periods that can last for a few moments or even for several years. And most importantly, they have the power to inspire us. They have the power to galvanize us, and they have the power to propel us, even send us to the moon. And today we'll talk about how to leverage these, what I'll call productively disruptive periods. And when combined with other quantum leadership topics that I'll talk about today, hopefully you'll walk away with a roadmap to successfully chart a course into the AI age. And I think that, when I think about the big idea of this talk, the provocative notion about our time together today, I really like organizing it around the idea of three fallacies, right? The certainty fallacy, the efficiency fallacy, and the skills fallacy. Quickly on each, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper through our time today. The certainty fallacy, the trap there is believing that stability is a sign of success. And it's a trap because leaders often think that their goal is to create and maintain stability, strategies that eliminate risk and disruption. Okay, so the provocative insight here, I think, is that what if the discomfort of disruption is the most powerful resource we have? Can you think of a time in your own life, personally or professionally, when you were at that inflection point, too far in to stop, not yet far enough to know how the heck it's going to play out? Leaders and teams feel discomfort, anxiety, even fear in these moments because they represent the loss of the familiar without the security of the new. We're in that pivot point. But this emotional tension is not a problem to be solved. It's a necessary part of transformation. Real innovation rarely follows a linear path. It thrives in ambiguity and often emerges from periods of confusion and tension and uncertainty. As we've said, liminal spaces are where new ideas form because the old structures and assumptions break down, creating room for experimentation and creativity. The efficiency fallacy, the trap there is believing that AI's primary value is in automating tasks and improving efficiencies. It's a trap because leaders often get trapped in thinking that AI's main role is to make processes faster or to reduce costs. This focus on efficiency limits AI as a tool for incremental improvements, which underestimates its potential. Play along with me again. Think back to a time, an instance of the most successful onboarding of a new colleague, right? We've got many examples where it goes wrong. Oh gosh, Jason, geez, oh man, he's not getting up to speed. Think of a time when it worked great. If we could only replicate, when their skills were put to optimal use and when you knew when and how to best leverage them. What contributed to this reality? And I would encourage you to map instances in your own past where there was a successful onboard of a new team member, because that's our new relationship with AI. That's the new paradigm for how we think about integrating AI into our teams. Think of it as a new team member. Did we take time to get to know their capabilities, their strengths and weaknesses? Did you learn when you might get the best and worst from them? Or how about this tool? That is your roadmap on how to help your colleagues and your teams start to organize how to integrate AI into your organization and into your work every day. Thirdly, the skills fallacy. The trap here is thinking that mastering new skills is enough to lead in a complex world. And it's a trap because many leaders believe that continual skill acquisition will prepare them for the future. While useful for sure, this approach is limited because it doesn't expand their capacity to deal with complexity. And I think the key point here, it's not about changing what a leader thinks. We need to change how the leader thinks. This is what I'll call vertical development. To understand the concept of vertical development, we introduce the metaphor of leadership aperture. So what's leadership aperture? Think of leadership aperture as your leadership field of view. It's the amount of information that you as a leader allows or disallows to affect their decision-making at any point. If you had to guess, does this new era of AI require of us to be tactical, strategic, or visionary to tackle and leverage this new member of our team? You need all three of those muscle groups to be able to handle it. Start thinking about the key behaviors that you yourself could engage in to be, more effective tactically, what we call the expert, more effective, strategically, or what we call the achiever, or more effective as that visionary or that catalyst, right? There's behaviors you can start capturing for yourself to move in that particular direction.